Hey, how you doing? This is The Run on True Sports, live at the El Macambo, setting you up for the NBA season. Feels like the Lakers just won 2 weeks ago, but 10 weeks have passed. A brand new season is here. My name is Brendan Dunlop, set to break it down with AJ and Ray. Boys, I'm excited for this, man. You excited for the new season?
Definitely. I can't wait for this season. It's going to be one of the most competitive seasons ever with KD coming back and Kyrie, and then LeBron defending his championship, and with Steph coming back. There's so much to talk about in this episode.
Man's is excited.
It's a storyline, There's a lot of storylines here. I'm excited, especially for the big max contracts that have been signed with Giannis and Paul George. So there's a lot of guys that got a lot to prove. So I'm excited.
I got a few storylines to throw at you. Then let's talk about the champions, the Lakers.
Let's do it.
Re-sign Anthony Davis. Are the Lakers the clear-cut favorites in the West for you both?
I don't know, AJ. What do you think?
I mean, for me, I think they are. I think they've improved, actually. I think from going from Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee to Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol.
Upgrades.
I think those are huge upgrades. And then adding Dennis Schroeder as the backup point guard. Yeah, Rondo had the playoff experience and playoff Rondo. I think potential Hall of Famer as well. But I think Dennis Schroeder really fits that system really well.
Yeah.
And I think that they've made massive improvements from last year, and then couple that with AD and LeBron. I think Lakers right now are the clear-cut favorites to win the championship.
I can't lie. I do kind of agree with him, but then I don't. Because I hate agreeing with him all the time. And the thing is that
you're right, folks.
The Lakers are in a position where back-to-back makes sense. Let's be honest, it makes sense. They've got the Kobe Mamba, already. They got the first one out of the way. LeBron and AD, they've signed. They got them together for those couple of years, and it's to win. But I just don't think that Kawhi and the Clippers and Paul George are going to let that happen again. I just don't think. I think that they made their mistake, and I don't see the Clippers messing that up again.
It's exciting that the Lakers are a much better team. They're the champions, and they're even better, stronger, I think, all around than they were last season. But the Clippers got a chip on the shoulder. I think the Clippers are feeling some pressure, at least Paul George, to get things right this year. Losing Montrezl Harrell, I think, is going to be a bigger hole than a lot of people expected.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then you kind of look at the gap between the teams behind them, and the Nuggets and the Jazz are exciting. I think the Mavericks aren't ready just yet. But the Nuggets and the Jazz, to me, are too far away. It's the two LA teams, and I think it's kind of a coin flip.
You feel like the Mavs are just not... They're not there yet, or
they're there as the fifth challenger. They're just not there yet, and who knows what you're getting from Kristaps? We're not going to see him until mid-January at the earliest. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season.
Right.
So I think that Dallas is still going to kind of grow into their game.
Yeah.
And whereas the other teams will just start on fire.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my sleeper team is the Mavericks to make the conference finals.
Okay.
They were before the Kristaps thing, because like you said, with January, right? With Porzingis coming back, it gets a little tough for the Mavericks, right? Because, let's take a look at this, right? They gave the Clippers a run for their money last year in the playoffs, right? And then you have all the turmoil going on in Clipperland. The Warriors lost Klay Thompson, right?
Right.
So the Nuggets and Jazz are there as well, but I feel like with Luka's game even improving even more this year, I always thought there was a chance, but like you said, Brendan, Luka's by himself right now. Potentially, right?
Right.
I mean, virtually he's by himself. Without Kristaps there, it becomes tough. January, they could make a run, potentially, because, you still have about 3-4 months left of the season before the playoffs start. But, yeah, I think it is a little too late for Dallas, and I do think the conference finals, well, we also thought last year was going to be Clippers and Lakers, right? Until they blew the 3-1 lead because your boy hit the side of the backboard.
Oh, come on, man.
No shots fired there.
He's always taking shots at Paul George, man. He's like,
but at the same time, I do see the Clippers making the conference finals. I just don't see them beating the Lakers this year.
The Nuggets, for me, are a team that I would like to see flirt with knocking off the two LA teams.
Yeah, they're great.
Right.
Jamal Murray was named the SI Breakout of the Year, which I think is an incredible honor for the Canadian.
Yep.
And just him and Jokic, another year under the belts. The Nuggets, to me, are I think, a real threat in the West.
They've got a lot of talent on that team, and I just think that the veteran experience now, kind of having them be more battle tested, it's going to prove to help them out this season. But there's a lot of shifting in the West, with Westbrook now over in the East now. James Harden in Houston, there's just too much, there's so much uncertainty.
We'll get into it. Who knows what's up with...
We don't know what's going on over there. But Denver, I feel like they're still there's just something about them that I don't trust. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just a lack of veteran experience and maybe just not enough playoff, experience. They did great. I'm really happy for Jamal Murray. He played great, but I still just think that with Chauncey Billups in that Clippers, in the nucleus of where their chemistry issues were, I think we're going to see a better, Clipper team on
Chauncey's
that.
the X factor.
I think he is. I think Chauncey. No one's talking about it, but this is a guy that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals 6 times in a row with the Pistons and everything that he did with them. This is a guy that understands how to win, and Paul George has got a chip on his shoulder. That's my guy, and I just think that the Clippers are going to come through, man.
I'm excited to see Chauncey and what he can bring because the talks of him being a front office executive and going straight from the broadcast booth to being a GM, and now here he is as an assistant coach at a team with a lot of expectations. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's switch to a team with a lot of expectations that people are really excited about. We're going to finally get to see what the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn Nets look like.
Huge.
How excited are you for that?
Go ahead,
Do you
Ray.
think they'll reach the expectations that they had for themselves when they decided to pair up together in Brooklyn?
Brendan, it's crazy because you it's all based on health with these guys. The big thing is health.
Right.
Can they stay healthy? Could KD stay healthy? Could Kyrie stay healthy? Could they keep that nucleus throughout the playoffs, into the playoffs? Because they're a dangerous team. Like, preseason doesn't really say much. We can't take that serious.
Because KD looked pretty good.
He looked really good.
Smooth.
He looked
For having
really
not
good.
played a real game in
Smooth.
500 plus
if they
days.
If they let Kyrie keep doing that Sage thing he keeps doing every game, like into the season, we don't know, right? What can
Gonna have to do a lot of different arenas. I think.
right?
Yeah. Not just a Boston thing. He should do it everywhere.
Right? So those are two guys that got a lot to prove, right? Kevin Durant has got a lot to prove. He's coming into this season. He hasn't played in a long time. So this is a guy that also has a lot to prove. He wants to be there with LeBron. He wants to be in the conversation with the best. And he's not going to just, he's a competitive guy. He's not going to take a back seat. And he's not just going to relax. And neither is Kyrie, right? So with Steve Nash there as well, we're not even talking about Steve Nash there. There's a lot of great minds and great basketball minds there. I'm excited for Brooklyn.
So I think with Brooklyn, yes, there's the potential for them to win and come out the East for sure, but there's a lot of moving targets in Brooklyn-wise. I mean, yes, I agree. Injuries is a big factor when it comes to Brooklyn because KD's coming off an Achilles injury, and Kyrie seems like he can't play a full season anymore. But I really think more than that is just the mental maturity of Durant and Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie, we know, unfortunately, is seen as a head case in the locker room.
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant, although he doesn't have a history, of having problems with coaching. He's had problems with his players,
right.
which is one of the reasons why he left Golden State, because of his altercations with Draymond Green. You add Steve Nash as a first-time coach, needing to manage those egos. I feel like there's a lot of combustible elements there. And if they can manage that, which I think will be a challenge, yes, they can go far. But that will be the deciding factor. If these egos can stay in check and Steve Nash can keep these guys in check, then they'll be okay. But even with Steve Nash, Ray, I see problems because Kyrie has gone on record to say, I don't feel like we have a head coach.
But he retracted that, I think.
No, I know. But the fact that even comes up because he got a lot of heat for that, right?
It shouldn't be something we're even allowed to talk about, able to have heard.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, right?
Right.
You got to be careful when you say stuff like that because that's your mentality coming in.
Yeah.
So these things, health, but more so if they can get their egos in check, then yes, Brooklyn will go a long way. I just think that will be very, very challenging.
What is success for this Brooklyn Nets team then? Is it reaching the conference final? Is it losing to the Lakers in the final? Is it winning it all? What's the measurement of success for Brooklyn?
That's a good question. I think that the big thing for them would be to make it through to at least 2-3 rounds. I think if they get to an Eastern Conference Finals, then automatically that is a huge win for Brooklyn. The last time they were even anywhere close to that was when they had Paul Pierce, they had Darren Williams, the whole thing with the Raptors beating them in that. So that was the height of Brooklyn's success, right? They haven't done anything since. So anything more than that would be a huge win for them. I
think conference finals, at least conference finals for me. Like when you have Kyrie, KD, you got players like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert.
I like Spencer.
I love Spencer. Karis LeVert, right? Yeah. Allen.
There's a lot of potential on this
team.
Oh my gosh,
they got so much potential.
They got a lot of pieces.
So I think this. I mean, if they make the finals, I think it'll be going above expectations. But at least they should make the conference finals because it is their first season, right? Let's keep that in mind. Yeah. Yes, from an individual standpoint, Kyrie is special, KD is special, right? But you got to gel. There has to be chemistry.
Right.
And right now in the preseason, we're seeing that. But preseason, people play a little loosely, right?
Yeah.
In the regular season, when it starts
To
on
tighten
Tuesday,
up. Yeah.
starts to tighten up a little bit, right? So we'll see what happens. But I think my expectations is conference finals.
Losing to the Bucks in the conference final, then the expectation for the Brooklyn Nets.
Are you already setting out your prediction, Brendan?
Man, I'm transitioning to Giannis signing the Supermax.
Right.
I think a lot of people in Toronto were disappointed.
Yeah.
A lot of people around the NBA were disappointed to see him
Yep.
commit to Milwaukee. I understand why he did it from a financial decision.
Big
The
time.
most uncertain times that any of us have lived in. Why would you choose more uncertainty
Right.
and less money? I mean, could he make up
Right.
the difference in the $50 million? A guy like that, of course.
For sure.
No matter what market he went to, even if he went to play in Eastern Europe, he would have been able to make up that deficit for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
But for me, I think he chose certainty, and now the pressure's on Milwaukee to build a team around him. Is he going to get championship rings out of it by the time the 5-year deal is up, though?
It's really tough to say because you got a guy who, again, an MVP. He's an MVP. Giannis is the type of guy you got to. He's the big starting piece to any franchise. But you got to build it, and you got to get the right pieces around him. They got Drew Holiday, which I love. I love that pickup. That's a guy that can play defense, a great defender, right? And then you start to surround him with much. But I don't feel like the Milwaukee did enough.
Right.
I don't feel like they did enough.
I agree.
To actually, give Giannis, a little bit more, because I know Giannis was looking to try. He was recruiting and looking to get other guys,
Right.
To come play with him,
Right.
because he was really he needed help,
Right.
right? When you got Miami there, look, Miami literally took the heart out of Giannis and those Bucks, and that it was absolutely it was sad to watch, right? So. No, I don't think they're even gonna. You're right. I think Brooklyn takes them out again, and if they do meet in that matchup, I think it's not. But Milwaukee maybe next year. I don't know.
I mean, it's not even guaranteed Milwaukee will make the conference
Right.
finals because we've been saying that for the past 2
Right,
years.
right.
And they got ousted by Toronto, and then
Yeah.
they got ousted by Miami. So
Right.
I don't even know what to expect from the Bucks anymore. Really,
Yeah.
from a success rate, they're just so hard to kind of find out what they're about.
But Giannis cashed in. That's
He
the
did.
thing.
So to answer your question, Brendan, I think, and I alluded to this on my I'm Here to Tell You on the Run, my Instagram post that I do, it's a move you have to respect, I feel like. Because in an era where we're seeing players create super teams and kind of creating an easier path to win a championship, Giannis said, no, I'm going to emulate the greats like MJ, like Larry, like Magic, like Kobe, and I'm going to stay here. And people call me a Pippen. I'm going to show them that I'm a Jordan. I'm going to stay loyal. And it was weird because it was like a foregone conclusion, like you said, that he's going to go somewhere else. Whether it's Toronto,
Seemed like it.
Whether
Yeah,
it's
it
Toronto, Miami, Golden State, it just seemed like it. Like it was already done because
It was
that's,
wishful thinking in Toronto, I
Right.
think.
it was, well, yeah. I mean, we could talk about that as well, but it was already a foregone conclusion because that's just the way it is now in the NBA, right? But he stayed put, and now, like you said, Ray, I think they're one piece away.
Yeah.
And yes, ownership and management got them Drew Holiday, but I don't think that's enough to win a championship.
I don't either.
Now, though, ownership and management owe it to Giannis to get that one piece now. He's shown you that he's loyal. You have to give it back now.
Yeah.
You have to give it back. So I respect the move that he wants to stay loyal to his city and wants to bring a championship to Milwaukee. It's just time will tell if that loyalty will be reciprocated by management.
I wager that Giannis is going to win a ring in Milwaukee. It's not going to be this season, though.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about some of the other teams in the East that would trip them up. Haven't even spoken about the Raptors. But there's one team that made a big move that you seem to be really excited about, and you might be in a huge minority here.
Okay.
That thinks that Russell Westbrook is going to change the fortunes of the Washington Wizards, man.
well, the thing is, Russ is a guy. He's another guy.
Russ
MVP
is a guy. And
he's a
with
guy.
his best days behind him, I think.
You think so?
I do.
Well, you know what?
He's relied on athleticism for far too long.
Right.
He was in a system where he should have thrived.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think it was fair. On paper, a player like him and a player like Harden should thrive, and they weren't able to do it there. So I just don't see how an older version on a worse team can do anything.
You feel that those triple-double days are past?
He's still going to put up those numbers, but he's not going to carry a team through playoff rounds.
Right.
I don't think it's enough. You look at how important the points were for Giannis in the playoffs. How he MVP regular season, but once he cooled off in those playoff rounds, 2 quarters without Giannis performing like an MVP, and they were done.
Yeah.
So I just feel as though that model doesn't work. and Russ is now on a worse team than he was last season and arguably even the season before.
Right.
But the conference, though, he's in the East, right? There's always a chance. I don't think
pull off some surprises.
There's always a chance in the East sometimes. Usually in the West, there's usually, there's clear-cut favorites, like we said, the Lakers, the juggernauts. But in the East, I didn't think Miami was going to do what they did, and they did, right? I don't think anybody saw that coming, but they did. But again, with Washington, it was such a weird team for Russ to go to be honest. I thought that maybe
I think it's purely his contract.
It's
man,
contract.
John Wall matched that contract.
Right.
To be
It
honest
was the
with you.
only contract that they could make it work.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I understand it on the logistics number wise. But Bradley Beal, Westbrook, the team, I don't know. But you never know because it's just one of those things. I put bets on, and then I'm wondering, how the heck did I just lose money on this? And I'm wondering, okay, well, it's unpredictable. You just never know what's going to happen in the NBA, and that's the great thing about the league.
That's a lose-lose move for me. I feel that John Wall is not going to. I don't think you're going to get a full season of John Wall. I don't think he's going to help Houston.
Right.
Who knows what's up with Harden? And I just think that Washington are banking on a star to sell some attention because we don't know if they're going to be able to sell tickets, but to sell some attention.
So I think Washington will make the playoffs, but all I got to say for this deal is poor Bradley Beal. That's all I got to say. Simply because when John Wall was out, he carried that team on his shoulders, right? He got snubbed for all-star selections, which I think he was an all-star, but he got snubbed. And he carried that team on his back, like I said, and he would try to, day in and day out, he would pour his heart out. John Wall was gone, a key piece, and he carried that forward, and he was the guy on the team. Here comes Russ, stat patter, that is known. Unfortunately, he's a great player, individual player. I don't want to take anything away from us. MVP. But the problem here is that other people's games get affected when Russell Westbrook joins the team, right? KD left, right? James Harden, although James Harden might have a part to play in that as well.
Paul George.
The fact that even Paul George, although Paul George seemed to have worked out, but I really think that Paul George's game, went down when he joined Westbrook.
Right.
And I think the same thing's going to happen to Bradley Beal. I think the one who really lost in this trade is Bradley. And I really feel like his game is going to be affected. And I just really hope that, it's not to an extent where Washington can't make the playoffs, but it's just sad to see that Bradley Beal's game is going to take a hit because of Russell.
But the time you watch this, James Harden may have a new team. He may not. He's told the Miami Heat he doesn't want anything to do with them.
Right.
There's a hot rumor that the Raptors would be in play for James Harden.
Sixers.
In an offer that involved Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
The Sixers, were rumored to be involved in that
I've even heard Denver for Jamal Murray, too.
Let's look at it from that to me is too much. From a local example, if I'm Masai Ujiri, putting it on the table, getting James Harden and giving up Pascal Siakam, I make that move. But if I'm in Denver, I'm not making that move. If I'm in Miami, I don't think I'm making that move. I think the Raptors are in a very interesting situation where they have a chance to reach the conference final again. They could reach the final potentially, but it's going to take so many more minor miracles than we've seen in the past. Harden is a guy, I think, in this type of winning environment. There are not too many cultures like Toronto. Really, it's just Toronto, Miami, I think, that really have a culture where you can take a guy who's struggled in another place and bring him up a notch. And you're plugging him into a program and a system that works. We've already seen it in the preseason, and even with some of the new pieces. Malachi Flynn looks like he should have been a lottery pick.
Steal.
Not
to say that the preseason is the best measurement, but still an exciting player.
Yeah.
So I think if the Raptors were to make that move, it'd be a huge gamble, on the same level as trading DeMar for Kawhi, but for me, it'd be worth it.
And Masai's gambled before, and it's paid off. And I think that if he does it again, James Harden's the type of guy that he needs defenders around him. He's a guy that's going to get you scoring. He needs guys. It's tough to have James Harden because he needs the ball in his hands so much. So having Kyle Lowry's best days are past him as well. Let's be honest. You're not going to get much out of Lowry as well. But they still got a few pieces. They just gave OG, a great contract. So he's locked in for a bit. But it's still just not enough. I think it'll be interesting for Harden, but we're not talking ticket sales, even with Russ going to Washington. None of that matters now because there's no fans, right? But it's still just going to be really interesting as far as if that does happen. I think it's a move that I agree the Raptors should pull the trigger on.
So I would have to disagree with both of you guys respectfully. I think the Raptors right now are first round, max second round exit. I don't think they can make the conference finals nor the finals this year. But with that said, I still do not pull the trigger on this Siakam Harden trade. I don't. Although Siakam had a terrible bubble, right? He went from spicy P to mild P, as people say, right? And I feel like he got exposed. A lot of people read the scouting reports and figured out how to guard Pascal Siakam. And he has a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders this year because when Kawhi left, it was kind of, the torch kind of got passed over to Pascal. And unfortunately, he didn't deliver, right? So now it's like, okay, Pascal, now you're facing adversity for the first time in your career. Yeah. How are you going to respond? I'm not writing him off yet. I still think a bubble was a very exceptional situation, right? That doesn't happen a lot. So it's hard to measure Siakam in that way. Although I'm not defending him, he has a lot to do to bounce back. But I still don't pull this trigger because, like we said, man, Raptors have a chemistry. They have an identity. Yep. And Harden, as we've seen reports with Houston, kind of destroys the identity. He wants to be a one-man show. And a lot of players' games are going to be affected, just like Russell Westbrook's. So I would not pull the trigger at this time, and you give Siakam time to bounce back.
The Harden situation just seems like such a mess, and it's put Houston in a tough spot to start the season. Any other year, I think they work it out in a normal offseason. Right. Yeah. But in 10 weeks, they just didn't have that. Biggest move for me, biggest surprise I think of this short off season, CP3 to Phoenix. I really think he makes the Suns. There's this strange three-headed monster there now. DeAndre Ayton and Kevin Booker. I don't think they're going to challenge, for a conference final spot, but I think they might surprise and steal a few games in those, first couple rounds and potentially and really surprise the big teams that you'd expect them to get squashed by.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I didn't expect CP3 to do what he did with OKC. And he surprised me. He shocked me. I didn't think he had that left in the tank. And that's the thing about Chris Paul. He's the type of player that can come in there and make an impact right away. He's a veteran guard, and he's so proven. And he's just like, he still has it. He's proven that. And then Devin Booker is just elevating his game so much. Right. And if the rest of the team with Ayton and all those guys can really get in there, you just never know what could happen in Phoenix.
So I agree with you, Brendan. I think it's the largest move in the offseason for me. And I'm going to take it a step further. Chris Paul, when he was with the Clippers and when he was with the Rockets, it's been proven that he's an alpha male, right? And he doesn't really get along with other alpha males, right? Like Blake Griffin and James Harden, right? So he needs to kind of lead the locker room. He needs to be the alpha male in the locker room and lead young guys, which is exactly what happened in OKC. Yeah. Nobody thought the Thunder were going to make the playoffs last year. Yeah. Nobody. Let's call it what it is. Yeah. Nobody thought the Thunder were going to make it, but they made it, right? Because you have young guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a whole bunch of other guys, Steve Adams, who listen to Chris Paul, and Chris Paul needs that. Yeah. Right? He needs that. You can take that situation in OKC and multiply it by like 5 to 10 in Phoenix, because like you said, you had Devin Booker, right? Phoenix was 8-0 in the bubble last year, undefeated, right? Devin Booker was doing buzzer beaters, all-star. Like, his game was here.
Paul George and Kawhi, too.
The Suns were super impressive in the bubble. Man.
Oh, yeah.
They were super impressive, right? And then you take Devin Booker's game, which I think will be elevated. Mm-hmm. But one key piece, like you mentioned, Ray, is DeAndre Ayton. Number one all overall 3 years ago. This is his third season.
Yeah, he's got to step up.
I was watching a preseason game, and the commentators from the local Phoenix Suns broadcast was saying that DeAndre Ayton needs to mature. Mm-hmm. That's why he hasn't really taken to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I think Chris Paul will do that. Chris Paul will call you out and make you grow up, right? Yeah. So I think it's a huge move. I completely agree that this was the biggest move of the season, and Devin Booker's game, along with Ayton's game, will elevate even further, and Phoenix might squeeze into the playoffs. Don't be shocked if they're an 8 seed. Wow. Do not be shocked.
1A for me, LaMelo Ball. It makes the Hornets relevant. Let's end this with predictions then. Give me an MVP prediction. I'll throw mine out first while you have a think.
Please, Brendan.
LeBron James.
MVP. Wow.
I think everyone else, all these other teams have a lot of things to figure out. I think Giannis is going to feel a lot of pressure to start the season, to be honest. And he's settling in with a new teammate and kind of a new setup and a new system. Yeah. Whereas LeBron is thriving. And he doesn't have to be the guy every night. And he loves being the guy every night. So with that pressure off of him now, I think you're just going to see LeBron at his best.
What you got, Ray?
It's tough, because I can see LeBron finally getting that MVP campaign he well deserves. He's been well overdue, and let's be honest,
a guy who can get it every year.
Yeah, he could get it any year, every year, because he does everything. He impacts the team so much, but it's really tough to say because I really feel like they're not gonna. I don't see Giannis doing it again. I really don't, but they're gonna need Giannis more than ever. This season, big time. And if he does do those numbers like he did, it's going to be one of those where he might get snubbed because this time he actually will be the MVP that they need him to be, but they're not going to give it to him because he just won.
I got Luka Doncic for MVP this year.
Whoa, okay.
Whoa.
He was in the discussion last year. As much as I love LeBron, it was a battle last year between LeBron and Giannis, and I don't see that battle happening this year. Although LeBron, I do expect to have a great year along with Giannis, but I just think Luka's game will just go from here to here this year. I mean, this kid has exceeded expectations, although he was hot coming in, but nobody thought he'd be this hot this quick. And I really think that, just like similarly to the way Russ won the MVP when he was in OKC and James won in Houston, it's not a crazy idea to think that Luka can win with Dallas. And I think Luka Doncic has a really good shot of winning MVP.
Interesting.
Finals prediction. I got the Lakers beating the Bucks in the finals.
Wow.
Ray.
I've got the Clippers winning it all. And they're the Clippers are winning.
Wait, before or after the investigation?
The Clippers are winning it all because I just feel that Kawhi is going to have an MVP season. Listen, Kawhi he's a different guy. He's a fun guy, but he's a Terminator too, and you got to learn from your mistakes. These guys, they needed what happened to them. And I feel like the Clippers are going to win, and they're going to beat the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
The Nets in the finals, and Kawhi wins MVP.
I like how you buried that off the top. Finals.
I got Nets, Lakers in 6.
Woo. I like the prediction. Okay.
Durant versus LeBron. That'd be nice.
I can guarantee this. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about this season.
I can't wait for this year.
Can you imagine? But of the predictions, what if we're wrong and then somehow Denver gets in there? We're like, what?
Possibility, man.
Like, this always happens.
It's going to be fun to watch all season. Hope you enjoyed watching this. This has been The Run on True Sports, live at the El Macombo. Enjoy Christmas Day basketball, everybody. Happy holidays.